Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome back to the Rock Nerd Radio Show here on YouTube. You know, since we already took a look at Fistatron, otherwise known as Iron Fist, from the Wreckin' Doom Age of the Primes 2-pack, we might as well take a look at the other person in the 2-pack. This is Age of the Primes Carnivac.
Come geek out with us on the Rock Nerd Radio Show.
So, as I said, this is Age of the Primes Carnivac, and the original Carnivac was a G1 Pretender Beast. At some point in my collecting journey, I kind of went a little crazy and I bought all the Pretender Beasts, but just their inner robot because they were kind of cheap and easy to get. And I truly never really liked them. I don't have them displayed currently. They are in a box in storage, and some are better than others. Carnivac, I think, ended up being a very cool character in the original G1 comics, but the original toy kind of lackluster. I'll put a picture up on the screen so you can see what that original robot and wolf mode and pretender shell look like as well. But this version of Carnivac is here as a headmaster, a Titan Master, whatever we're going to call it these days. And we'll talk about that as we go. But he is essentially a repaint and slight remold of Wolfwire, otherwise known as Weird Wolf. And the one thing that's kind of an issue with that I take issue with that, is you can see right here on the face, there's a white stripe painted. There are still two eyes. You can see the two eyes as Wolfwire had. And rather than remolding this to be like a visor, it just kind of almost looks like war paint, going over his eyes. It's not the worst look, but it's not my favorite. I do like the mouth being painted in silver, so you get some cool wolf detail in there. We have some nice greens and purples on the figure, on the front legs. Moving on down, we do see, especially on the bottom as well, this kind of brass gold type color. It's there on the shins, it's in the gun. And, looking at it, the tail is different than Wolfwire. It's a different type of sword that we're going to get. But we do have these big, wolf paws. And overall, it's not a bad alt mode. I am very quick to kind of criticize alt modes when it comes to Transformers. This beast mode looks pretty solid. It is a robotic wolf, and it harkens very closely back to that original G1 inner robot wolf mode. I have been, I'm going to say, a little critical in the past about pretenders and their inner robots, and sometimes I've said things that, some of the inner robots, especially their alt modes, look kind of dumb. This isn't the case with Wolfwire, or I'm sorry, with Carnivac. And even the original Carnivac, the original alt mode turned into a wolf. It didn't turn into some weird quote-unquote spaceship. So, this functions well without even the pretender shell, which I think is pretty neat. But I can only say so much about the alt mode. We'll take a look real quick at the accessories. So first we have this kind of brass gold gun, which I think might be molded in purple, because as you can see, the handle is purple. So I'm wondering if it's just painted over. I'm not going to try to scratch the paint off or anything, but this is, I believe, a new blaster. And there is a new spot molded here in the back, so you can stick that gun here. You could also, on any of the 4 points along the legs, you can see all those holes there. But you can take the side peg from the robot, or from the gun, and stick it onto the robot like this. So if you want to have kind of like a side-mounted gun, you can, which I also think looks very cool. Just to remove that for a second. The other accessory is the tailpiece, which turns into a sword or a dagger. Again, you can see it painted in this nice deep green with the purple handles. And same thing, you could have him, you can plug this into the back, or if you wanted to, you can stick it on the forearm. That's going to come more into play when he's in robot mode. Now, I did mention how this is a Titan Master, a Headmaster. So if we open up the cockpit, we will see his Headmaster companion. This is Decepticon Survivor, a nod to something from the G1 comics regarding Carnivac. But, it looks fairly neat. There's a nice purple square there on the chest right above the screw. The face is painted green, the legs and arms are green, the rest of the body in that kind of bronze color. And then, of course, we do have the actual face. So you can, of course, flip this into a head. And there's that really cool looking face, kind of a smirk on his face, which I really dig. And I think it does look kind of cool. Now, my only, I don't want to say my only complaint, because I already kind of voiced some, but one of the things that kind of bothers me about this figure is that this is a repaint of a figure from Titan's Return, which has been almost 10 years ago now, if not 10 years ago. This mold, I think, shows its age, so we are going to transform it. One of the things to look out for is this midsection. I do remember on Wolfwire, otherwise known as Weird Wolf, there was a tendency for this middle section to like break, to the point where I even bought two, one from the original run and one from the Walmart reissues, just in case my Weird Wolf ever broke. I have a backup. So this piece does clip in, and it kind of makes that click that you heard. It feels a little unsettling when you do it. But you just bring down what is the cockpit. It doesn't snap into place when you do it, but you know, it's there. And you're going to tuck the head back, which you can see there are these two holes here, and the wolf ears will fit into that. Just to say it, the wolf head is articulated, so it can move in alt mode if you want it to. From there, let's get the rest of the legs transformed. So this bronze piece will move down on each leg, and it kind of helps straighten out that leg. You can keep the wolf foot forward as his main foot if you want. You do have to flip out this piece that will form, if you keep the wolf foot forward, it will form a heel, but the official transformation says you are supposed to flip the foot around, and that this is the front of the foot. So the wolf paw becomes the heel support, and it stands pretty well, as you can see. We do have a little bit more transformation to go through, though. In the front paws, the hind legs, there is a panel here that you can flip up, and you will take out the robot mode hand. You can flip the wolf paw, in this case, back like this, so it does kind of, you know, become a bit of an arm piece. But do be careful, because as you just saw with mine, sometimes these panels peg out. They're not like there's no pin keeping it in place. This is all like friction plastic pegs, so things can pop out if you're not careful. Actually, I said there's no pin, but there's definitely a pin on this one. Oh, you know what? The pin is for the hand. So let me just show you that again. You can see the pin there for the hand. Literally, this piece just popped off. So same thing. I'm going to rotate the paw back. I'm going to flip out the hand, which wants to be a little stuck. There we go. And then normally you would just close this panel. In my case, I have to fit it back into place. It does click back pretty securely, though. And for the most part, here is the robot mode. Obviously, he's missing his head, so let's do something about that. I do have the headmaster here, and there is a square right there. It's this square, not that one, so the lower one. I'm going to plug this in, and boom, it fits pretty solidly. I know with the Titan's Return headmasters, sometimes the heads didn't always fit nicely, but his did, so that's good. And yeah, there is Wolfwire, or I keep saying Wolfwire because that's his repaint. There is Carnivac in his robot mode. Granted, he is sans weapons, but we'll get there. Just to bring in the Iron Fist that he comes with, since it is a 2-pack. Here's how they look together. There we go. And, you know, they make a pretty solid 2-pack. Again, this 2-pack runs you at $50. Not a bad price. You know, for 2 deluxe figures, that would probably make sense, considering deluxe figures are $25. So, yeah, they look pretty neat together, but I'll move Iron Fist back, and we'll continue looking at Carnivac here. So, in terms of articulation, his head, the Titan Master head is on a ball joint, which then therefore lets the whole Titan, the whole head, kind of jiggle around, so it can look left and right. It can do a little up and down, but it's in there so securely that there's not a ton of up and down to it, but it will move around a little bit. At the waist, we do have, well, let me rephrase that. We should have full rotation, but because of this back piece, it does inhibit you from moving all the way around. And that piece doesn't really change. So you are going to be limited with how his waist will bend. At the arms, we do have out this much. I think the elbow kind of, or the shoulder kind of, gets in the way. But you can rotate it fully around. It is a ball joint in there, as you can see. So you do have some, like almost like butterfly joint in there as well. So that's kind of neat. At the forearm, we do have rotation, and we have a little less than 90 degrees of bend. The hands move a little bit due to transformation, but this panel that the hands pop out of is going to get in the way. So don't plan on doing too much with the hands. At the legs, we have forward, we have back just about this far because of this butt flap. I mean, you can't even really move it around. So there is that. Legs are going to go out. Let me move the arms. Full Van Damme. So that's nice. We do have rotation right above the knee. We have bend at the knee, and you can get about 90 degrees. Feet are on a ball joint, so you can kind of get some wiggle and waggle out of them, but I think, so if you look here, like the ball joint is stuck in so deep that like you can't do a ton with it. You can get some movement, but not a lot. In wolf mode, there's an additional bit of articulation here. There's like an additional leg joint, but that's not really going to help you. I just snapped that right out. That's not really going to help you in robot mode. As you can see, you got to be careful with that. Also, one thing to make mention of, I just noticed this when I was popping the leg back on. The bottom part of the foot here, which is on that ball joint, there is a tab right there. And that's actually where you want to connect this knee piece, or this leg piece that comes down. It will secure everything up. And one thing I decided while I was doing this too was, you know what, I really like the wolf paw being his foot, so I am going to go ahead and just rotate the feet. I think the wolf paw looks kind of cool as his foot. So there we go. So his articulation isn't bad. It's definitely a little lacking by today's standards, but you got to remember this mold is almost 10 years old, so there's going to be some differences. But I really like the way the feet look. Taking the weapons into account, you do have, first we'll go with the sword. And like I said, you could store this on his arm if you wanted to. So it can hang out on his arm. You could almost treat it like a dagger, because now that this piece is at his knee, you can kind of put it on his knee. So it could be something that he's reaching for, which I think looks pretty cool. Or you could, of course, just put it in his hand. And it's not the biggest sword. It's not the same one that Weird Wolf came with. It is a shorter and definitely remolded sword, but it still looks pretty cool, and something that I think, looks like it makes this Decepticon pretty dangerous. The gun, you can, once again, peg into his arm. So you can just leave it there. You can make it like it's in an attack position. You can, once again, also put it at his knee, on the side of his knee. So it could be, this honestly looks like kind of cool weapon storage, almost like a cowboy with his, 6-shooter at his side. But then, of course, because there's another handle there, our figure can hold the gun. So, you have a nice number of options with this figure and his weapons to really do whatever you want with it. You can kind of make this guy look pretty neat. You don't have to have the weapons at the ready. You can kind of just have them, at his side and there in case he means business. He runs into trouble. But looking at the figure in robot mode, those purples and greens still look really cool. Purple and green happen to be my favorite color. So I really do like the color, or my favorite colors. So I really do like the colors of this figure. That nice bronze kind of gold color there as well. I believe the original figure suffered from gold plastic syndrome. This one doesn't, because this is definitely just like painted bronze. It's not gold or gold plastic. So there are some very nice pops of color on this one. He does look like a Decepticon. Like if there were a Decepticon like ground trooper that you could think of, he would almost fit that mold, I know we have like Viacons and such, but he almost just kind of looks like a generic Decepticon being, so purple. And I like that with the figure. I think that, that makes him look kind of cool. So once again, just to bring Iron Fist in, this 2-pack, they look pretty good together. I think the 2-pack for me, the biggest draw was Iron Fist. I'm not going to sit here and act like, I didn't buy it really just for Iron Fist. But Carnivac is a cool bonus for that 2-pack. And yeah, that's really all I have to say with this one. So I kind of dig it. It's not my favorite Transformer. It's by no means going to make like a Transformer of the Year list, but it is still really cool. With that said, I would love to know what you think of the new Carnivac figure. Did you pick up this 2-pack? Do you like one figure over the other? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Please leave one and leave a like if you're so inclined. And remember, you can always check out the Rock Nerd Radio Show podcast on your preferred podcast platform. It's a weekly podcast hosted by myself and my good friend Vinny, where we talk about all different aspects of pop culture. And there's bound to be something on there you're going to enjoy. So until next time, I guess this is all I really have to say about Carnivac. So thanks for tuning in. You've been pretty awesome. I'll see you around.